Welcome to Bold Conscious Connections. My name is Raju Panjwani and I'm a certified leadership coach.
And I'm Triccia Ramos, a certified high performance coach. Together, we help business leaders redefine success on their terms to create more space and energy so that they live impactful lives.
Everyone wants to be seen, heard, and understood. So at a deeper level, we know that the collective consciousness is important to raise in this world, and leaders who are influencers can make that difference. We, in our coaching programs, teach people how to focus on the interconnectedness, heart-centeredness, and growth from within. And this is what this podcast will be about.
So stay tuned and subscribe to wherever you listen to podcasts.
Talk to you very soon. And today we want to talk a little bit about leadership in the context of inner knowing and what it is you need to connect to really focus on what we promised in our podcast as interconnectedness, heart-centeredness, so that we can grow from it collectively.
And I think it starts with understanding. It's understanding that, yes, we do have this world that we absorb and learn from through our five senses. But what about our sixth sense, our intuition?
Well, I mean, people know sixth sense, I think, academically that it exists. And, there are articles and movies and all these other things about it that there was an intuition that you had. And then it somehow, it's there, but you don't know about it. So the idea here is that we want us to get good at tapping into it, because what appears as a coincidence is really not a coincidence, because you're calling that into your physical reality of those five senses, right?
Yes, and I think as leaders, you do want to harness your ability to tap into your intuition, because that is the gift that allows you to move through uncertain spaces and times, which is we're in the middle of right now.
Right, and I think the idea of embracing uncertainty is very uncomfortable to most people. So if you think about...
Well, people don't embrace it.
No, it's an uncomfortable situation, so we don't. So we're focused on the conditioning of how things have been in the past. It's seeing, hearing, tasting, touching, smelling, the five senses that we have. And that's all we know. Yes, those are important to experience life in your body. But the reality is that you're being controlled by your unconscious or subconscious beliefs that you're living by. And I think those are the things that we're not in touch with on a day-to-day basis.
And we've been given more, right?
Yes.
Our hunches, our, those inner voices that guide us otherwise, that tell us, do this instead of that, even if that is what makes sense based on the five senses. But then I think we've all had the experience where we've gone against the five senses and did what we didn't have an explanation for or a logical reason for. But then after some time, because we did that, which was the opposite of
meaning
logic
we ignored our
or
hunch?
reason.
Which means we ignored our hunch? Is that what you're saying?
No, meaning we followed our hunch. Because we followed our hunch,
Oh, okay.
Something else different completely unfolded.
Right. So the idea is, what does it mean to deal with uncertainty, correct? And, many of us don't take the action that we know is inspired from that hunch space or place, but instead choose the logical route, and then we end up getting frustrated because we got the same result as we probably got in the past.
Well, that's exactly what it is, right? Our logic is based on our past history, our past memories, past conditioning, what we've seen our parents do, what we've seen, what we've learned from somebody else from before. Mm-hmm. And the thing is, when you're in new territory, uncharted territory, you actually have an opportunity to behave completely differently. And when you don't choose to take the risk because you want to, let's say, play it safe or play it small, then of course you're going to repeat what you've seen before.
I mean, we've heard from people and leaders who are high achievers and high performers, right? Who've done so much in life. They've had, a career of 20 or 30 years or even longer. And then they believe that somehow they lost their purpose. Now, what does that tell you?
I think that there is this disconnect from given the world we live in today, where we have an overabundance of stimulation that comes our way. And if we aren't really being discerning or practicing good judgment with what it is that we're choosing to absorb, it's very easy to
get distracted
and crowd out that inner voice, that inner knowing. And then you think you're understanding, or you think you're making moves, taking action based on what you know. But the truth is, what you know is just a function of what you've done in the past.
True.
And so if you want to create something you've never created before, you have to be willing to go someplace that you don't know.
Right. And so isn't that challenging though, Triccia? Because, someone says to us that, well, I got to go figure out my purpose, right? And I have just not done a good job of figuring out where I am. I need time for myself to really, I've heard the questions that you guys ask, right? All these thought-provoking things. And the point is that when people are there to help you, God doesn't come down from somewhere to come and help you, right? So it comes in the form of other sources and other help. You don't even know who's coming to give you knock on the door and give you an opportunity to say, hey, do you want this or do you want that? Of course, you have to be discerning. You need to figure out what's in your alignment and what isn't. That's part of something you need to connect with, right? How do you do that? What's the way to connect with your inner self and inner knowing to say, oh, this isn't right for me? But sometimes you already know it's right for you. And who is that? James Allen always said, you have the will, the intuition, you have memory, you have perception, you have all these different things, imagination and reasoning. But we fall prey to reasoning and just look at what's there and say, oh, well, I don't have the willingness. And because of my reasoning, which is coming from the past, right? You tend to ignore your intuition, your imagination, and your potential future and your perception of the future.
I'm glad you're bringing that up, because very often we make decisions based on fear and limitation. And it's because we somehow, whether or not we're aware of it, we just don't feel safe and we don't feel secure. We don't feel stable. And so it's really important, as you begin to do this work of overcoming yourself and breaking through the habits of being yourself, as you create self-mastery, that you have to begin from a grounded space. You have to believe that you're held and that you're safe. And if you believe that, you can actually move with courage and you can behave in a way that supports the idea you can take risks, because no matter what, you're safe.
Well, how do you get there? So, oftentimes if somebody is in a stagnant career, for instance, right? They've had a job for 15 years, 20 years, whatever.
Oh, I was there.
And you were there.
Yeah.
So was I. Taking the risk of going and doing something totally different, particularly if you're not moving from one job to another, but if you're taking a risk of becoming an entrepreneur, which is really, I would say, one of the most sacred things that people can do. I mean, and knowing that you have 80 or 90% of businesses that don't make it beyond 5 years, you're taking a huge risk. And that risk is what stops people from expressing who they really are and they could be in the world. And that's the reason that only 1 or 2% of the people in the world are leaders, and everyone else works for them.
Truly. Because people are conditioned to fit in the box. And whether or not we want to admit it, if you're listening to this, chances are, like us, you are trying to figure out how to get out of that box. Or maybe you've escaped the box and you're experiencing a sense of freedom that you never thought was possible. And the truth is, it comes down to what we said earlier. If you can broaden your perspective, if you can tap into the idea that your circumstances are a function of your beliefs and your expectations, if you can really move from that understanding that you accept that your external reality is a function of your inner knowing, man, so much can change because you begin to co-create versus waiting for circumstances to be right. You begin to make them right. You begin to allow yourself to evolve and transform according to what it needs, what you need it to be. So with that has to come this belief that no matter what, you are safe.
I think that's the thing. So safety and being secure and feeling like you're taken care of, I think your basics are taken care of, right? Somehow. Because we all came with nothing. I mean, that's the truth of the world, right? We came with nothing. We were born into either poverty or depression or wealth or whatever it may be. But the belief and the conditioning, belief which was actually the basis for from the conditioning of all of our living, was that you couldn't do this or you couldn't do that. And only a few in the world that broke out of that they were not limited by that belief. They were not limited by the conditioning of what they were born into. They had something else they could actually express themselves as. How do you really tap into that? Because, Malcolm Gladwell talks about the 10,000 hours of, rigor in a particular area of life that you practice. But truly, actually, we listened to one of his master classes and he says, I never said that, but that's how people interpreted it. But okay, whatever that may be. It's not about the 10,000 hours. It's partly your passion, and you're going to obviously spend hours and hours of perfecting your practice so that you could be really great at what you do to express who you are. There's absolutely value and incredible value in that for people to hear from you as an expresser of that specific talent. Absolutely. But we all tend to follow herds, right? So we all know that. We tend to go to, this is a good career right now, investment banking or technology or, whatever the new thing is, the bright, shiny object. But that doesn't necessarily allow you to go inward and see who you really are. So what are the ways we can help some of our business leaders to really tap into that sixth sense and the intuition that your expression of who you are lies within you and not outside of you?
Well, first it's an acknowledgement. We've all heard that term, natural born leader. And the truth is, leadership is a learned skill. Anybody can become a leader. But yes, leaders understand that they have to be willing to go beyond the comfort zone. Leaders understand that they have to raise their ambition to go beyond what they've already seen. And they have to have the conviction to share their vision and believe in it, regardless of what the external circumstances are pointing towards. So they're determined. They just know, yes, this is how it's been, but this is what it could be. And we can call to mind so many great leaders in our time that have exhibited this, and they are decisive. They absolutely make decisions because they know that what they believe in and what their vision is for the betterment of humanity. And that's really what we're talking about. If you can put your feet to the ground, feel grounded in the idea that your vision is something that's going to improve not just your own life, but the lives of others around you, certainly the lives of people who matter most to you, you're a leader. And with that responsibility, you have to be more aware of what it is you're capable of. Because with more awareness comes more responsibility. Mm-hmm. So if you're even listening to this podcast, you have to broaden your perspective. I mean, there's just no other way around it, especially during these times.
So it starts with, of course, the inner, knowing that everything you need to know is inside of you, that you were given by God, nature, with
the universe,
whatever you were born with. So your consciousness existed then, and then you came into these bodies. The question is, being conditioned, and however old we might be in our bodies, and we know that there are some real sages at the age of even 20s, and there are people who haven't figured out life even at the age of 64. Like me.
Because it has nothing to do with your linear age.
So that's your linear age. So when you develop that inner knowing, and then you really figure out that it's a lot more than that, and you start understanding life, and then the question is, how are you going to be determined to express it in the unique way that of who you are? Because really, it's whether it's expression in the form of your business, your job, or whatever work you do, it's your unique expression. And the question is, are you doing it with full awareness, full intent, and with the highest self of you showing up every day? And I think that's our focus, and hoping that we inspire you as leaders to tap into that, because none of the other stuff really matters. I mean, of course, it shows up in revenues and profits and EBITDA and valuation. That's all great if that's what you're focused on. But truly, if that's your focus, I am confident that you're not tapping into the depths of who you really are as a leader. So the flip side is, if you focus on the depths of who you are as a leader, the rest of the stuff, the valuation, the revenues, and all of that stuff will take care of itself. So that's really what I think of all of this in a nutshell of this conversation.
And that's what today is about. Today is really to get you to begin thinking about your own inner knowing, listening to your own inner voice, tapping into your understanding of how powerful you are, and that you've been gifted this sixth sense of intuition that you can begin listening to, if you haven't already, to help you with how you move through your goals, your moment to moment, so that you can show up as a leader with determination, somebody that has an impact that influences people in a positive manner. So that's what we're here to do. We're here to inspire you, to have you really feeling that every day you wake up and you serve your purpose, and that you're living your best life because of it.
Right. So don't go looking for your purpose in life. Your purpose is to live. And, if you were able to tap into these couple of things we just talked about, that's your purpose for the time being. And the purpose can change from time to time. And that's okay, because, God sent us onto this planet, not for any big purpose. I mean, look at what else is out there: insects and trees and birds and animals. They all have a purpose. We couldn't live without each other. So everyone's living their purpose. So purpose is to live. So please go live fully.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode, and if so, make sure to subscribe, download, and share it with your sphere of influence.
We bring a variety of topics to you, and it's like a masterclass for those topics, and it's all free.
So take a screenshot, share it on your social media, and add the hashtag #BoldConsciousConnections so that we can find you, see you, maybe say hello.
And if you want to deep dive into some of the topics that we bring to you, find us at www.livemasterminds.com and get to know us.
Take care.